What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Academy of Change. My mission with this podcast is to help you all transform your lives, strive towards that best version of yourself, and be able to create lasting change in your life without having to hit rock bottom. You know, I'm somebody who's hit rock bottom to make the big domino change of quitting alcohol that ended up leading to me really transforming my life and really just being in the best place I've ever been. I feel like I'm truly, truly happy right now in my life. And I truly, truly have the tools to be able to stay here. And I'm never quitting. That's the thing, is my obsession with growth and transformation and change, and then helping other people be able to get to where I am and be able to change things with their health, with their body, with their mindset, with everything about their life is what drives me. And it's truly what I believe is my purpose on this earth. And so I'm so excited to just continue bringing you episodes going forward. And we're going to have guests on here coming soon here. I got some awesome guests lined up that we're going to be chatting about change, transformation, growth, all these things to help you all be able to make these changes a little bit easier with less resistance. And with that, today, the episode is on exactly that. I'm going to give you 5 frames or 5 ways that you can use to change in your life without hitting rock bottom. And it is going to be awesome. These are five things that I've used before, and hopefully 5 things that can help you really just, like I said, create that lasting change quickly. And we'll get right into it. I'll just get right into it. Number 1 is the frame of death, the frame that you could die any day. And this is something I've been huge on. I read some stuff and also watched some videos with Jesse Itzler, and I know he's huge on this topic. And a lot of people are huge on this topic. Ed Milet and Rainn Wilson, who's Dwight from The Office, they had a huge talk on Ed's podcast, and he talked a lot about this as well. And I've been really, really big on this. We could literally die today. I could die tomorrow. I could get hit by a car. I could walk outside and a bear mauls me. Like, literally, there's a million different things that could happen. Right? It's been something that I have just been digging into a lot. I think that this frame is something that can really lead to a lot of action. And so I believe that it's a big, big frame to change. Like, I think a lot of people go about life thinking that they're never going to die, right? Thinking that everybody else is going to die except them. And then guess what? Like, you kind of take life for granted. I found that since I made this little small shift in my life around just remembering every day through a number, I write down a number on my power list, which is the 5 critical tasks for the day. If you want to learn more about that, Andy Frisella, he has his Q&AF podcast where he talks, I feel like it's like episode 6 or episode 15 or some shit, where he talks about the power list, and it's completely changed my life. It's a really, really good way to get better performance in your day to day and to really just move the needle forward every day. But with that, this is something on that power list every day, I write down my number of how many days till I turn 80, right? Just like guessing, right? It's like 75, 80. It's like the average age that people live to, right? And so I have 18,520 days until I turn 80. And that sounds like a lot less time than 50 years, right? When you think about a year, like, oh yeah. Even though they continue to go quicker and quicker and quicker. But I just think it's so key to remind yourself of this. And if you're somebody who's trying to change, right? If you're trying to like quit something, if you're trying to, get more self-love, if you're trying to, fix your binge eating, or you're trying to get into better body image, that frame of, and first off, maybe you want to get help too. Like this, if it's something you've been trying to do for a long, long time, get help. I have gotten help in so many areas of my life. I got coaching in a lot of different areas of my life that I'm lacking in, so that I can buy somebody else's mistakes and be able to move forward with them. But something that can help you take action if you're having trouble making that next step is to understand that you could literally die today. And if you can really, really let that sink in, then it's going to be a lot easier to change and be like, shit, I don't have a lot of time. I got to fix this so that I can, take action on my dreams right now, because guess what? Like, it could end tomorrow. And that same thing is about regret. So like on this same thing, it's like the frame of like death, the frame of regret. I think that most people you hear, they get to their deathbed and they're like, kids, God, I made so many mistakes in my life. Like, I never chased my dreams, right? Like, make sure you chase your dreams. Right? So many people, they have so many regrets when they die. And one of my big things is I do not want to have regrets when I die. I want to like go at it and be like, you know what, kids, I left it all out on the line. Like I feel so good about what I did in my life. I impacted so many lives. I did exactly what I said I wanted to do. I went at it with 100%. And when I've gotten these two frames into my head of like death, I could die today, and I want to make sure that I live without regret. That has really sprouted a lot of action, and it's made it a lot easier for me to make changes in my life and transform and become a little bit better and continue pushing towards the next level, because I'm always pushing towards that best version of myself. It's that ever eluding best version of myself. And I constantly just try to take one step towards that version every day. And this helps me a lot. And so hopefully this frame of death and regret can help you change. But you gotta let it sink in. You gotta remind yourself of it daily. And it can be very uncomfortable right away. It can be very uncomfortable. A lot of people are afraid to die. And if you're one of those people and you struggle to talk about death, you're probably somebody who should go right at this. You should really go head on with this and really figure out exactly why, right? Get to the root. And once you can remind yourself on a daily basis, it's going to be a lot easier. Number 2, the second frame is the frame of accelerating your pain. So another way is to accelerate that pain. And when I say this, I mean, like, what's the worst case scenario of the stuff that's going to happen if you keep going down this route, right? What happens if you put this out another year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? If you keep making the same decisions that you're making right now, what is going to happen? Right? And an example is like weight loss, right? If you're thinking about losing weight, here's what it would look like. So what happens if you continue going down these same habits, these same decisions? Let's say you're like, I continue gaining weight. I continue to feel terrible. I continue to get in worse health. Maybe I get diabetes. Maybe I end up in the hospital. And then the fact that I'm obese and in poor health ends up killing me down the road, right? If I keep doing these same things, like, is that enough to make you change, right? Like, if you keep going down this route, what is the worst possible situation? And for a lot of people, it's death. It's like, oh, well, I could die. Shit. Oh, I'm going to get like diabetes. Maybe I end up getting cancer because I got all this stress and I'm putting so much stress on my body and eating so much sugar. And like, I end up dying. Oh shit. And then I would leave my kids around with nobody to look after them. And then maybe that's enough for you to change, right? I can't tell you that, but I can tell you that this is a really, really good way to accelerate pain, because a lot of times people run away from pain, right? Some people run to pleasure, right? But a lot of times the easiest way to get yourself out of a hole and the easiest way to get yourself to change is pain. That's why a lot of people have to hit rock bottom. They got to get in enough pain to really need to change. And that's what I'm trying to make sure with this podcast and with this, with this episode, with future episodes, is that you don't have to get to rock bottom. And so go down that worst road possible that you can think of. And does that sound like a place where you want to end up? No? Well, then it's probably a good idea to start taking a step in the right direction. And with that, I want you to understand that we don't need to take 15 steps in the direction today. A lot of this stuff, like when change, there's plenty of times when people try to change, but they try to change everything at once, right? They're trying to make these lifestyle, they want to lose weight. And so they go to the gym 5 days a week from zero. They start drinking a gallon of water a day. They start eating ultra clean foods and they cut out all of the processed foods, and they expect to stick with it. And maybe they do for a week, 2 weeks, but then they fall off. So make sure, preface for all of this is to try to take one step in the right direction. Try to create like 1 to 3 habits that you can stick to day after day, week after week. You're 9 to 10 confident confident that you can complete these habits on a daily basis every day, and you continue to build on them, right? That's the best way to do it. Number 3 frame or way to be able to change is to look at what you've found is to look at what you found was successful for you in the past. So use past experiences to help yourself grow. Like what are ways you've changed? Like everybody has made changes in their life, right? Everybody has made some sort of changes. A lot of times when you say change, and what you probably think I'm talking about is like these huge changes, right? It's like big changes. I'm not talking about that. Like small changes. Like, oh, I added this habit of like gratitude, right? That's a change. Yeah, adding habits is a change. Like, oh yeah, I used to not drink water and now I do. Like what ended up like working for you to do that, right? Like use your own experiences. Dial in the steps. I never actually went through the steps of what I took to quit drinking until I created this podcast. And I was like, oh, it was actually after I had that dream that allowed me to create this podcast and allowed me to end up making the Academy of Change a reality. I never went through the steps. And I was like, oh shit, I can use this to be able to help myself and other people change, right? The simple thing of like, oh wait, yeah, the first thing was I was aware, right? I had to be aware that it was a problem in my life, that I was in a lot of pain. I was aware that it sucked, that my life sucked. I hated my life, right? That was the first step. And then I ended up getting help and I started breaking my false beliefs, right? It's like, oh, I went to therapy. Oh, I started reading Alan Carr's book and I started breaking those false beliefs that I had and trying to get myself ready to change. And then it was commitment to quitting, right? I had to decide to change. When am I going to change? When am I going to make the change? When am I going to quit? And remember, I said that I was going to push it out, right? I was like, oh, in 2 weeks I'll quit when my brother's wedding's done because I want to drink for that, right? It's going to be so awkward to be not drinking for that. I got a best man speech. I got all this stuff. But I ended up quitting before that because I was like, you know what? I know how this goes. There's going to be another thing. I'm never going to quit if I continue to push this off. So I got to do it today. And then it's just sticking with it. It's reminding myself of that pain. It's having the habits and routines. It's surrounding myself with people that build me up. It's all of these things. And so like find that formula for yourself. Generally, what's going to be the easiest way for us to change is to use what we've used in the past. And so find those steps for yourself. What are the small changes you make? What are the big changes you make if you've had them? What are the steps that you took? And I think you'll find that's probably one of the best ways that you can use to create some lasting change in your life. Number 4. Now this is to set your own consequences. So an example of this is like you could have an accountability partner and have punishment for not like making the change that you're after. So maybe you have to pay a friend $1,000 if you mess up, right? It's like, oh, I'm trying to quit drinking. I'm sorry. I'm on like this since I continue to talk about this, that story, it's in my mind now. So it's like, so if you're like, oh, if I don't quit drinking, then I have to pay a friend $1,000 or, if I eat sugar, then I got to pay $1,000 to a friend or something like, that's not a good one. You probably shouldn't do that, or maybe it's paid to charity, right? Whatever the punishment is, it's got to be harsh enough that you're actually pushed for true change, right? It's got to be harsh enough where you're like, I don't want to do that. Because a lot of times we got to build that momentum, right? We got to build that momentum. And once we build that momentum, it becomes a lot easier to change. And so I think this portion, it can really help you build that momentum, get that ball rolling. Where it's like, oh shit, yeah, now I got 30 days in me and now I got that momentum and it's so much easier to do it. An example of this is around alcohol again. It's like when I had a $50 bet with my brother. It was in January, like it was probably the year before I actually ended up quitting, or maybe it was the year I actually ended up quitting. I can't remember. But I had a $50 bet. I was like, Ty, it's my brother's name. Ty, I'm doing a sober January. This is, mind you, this is like the third straight sober January I was doing. In the last 2 before that, I did not succeed. And so this one, I was like, Ty, $50, I owe you $50 if I do not complete this sober January. And I think we both had it. Like if he did it, he owed me 50, whatever. I think he was successful. But I think I was like a week in and I ended up, my buddies were drinking and I was sitting around and I was like, fuck. All right, it's just $50. And I paid my brother $50 and I ended up drinking. Right. And so the consequence for me in that respect was not large enough to facilitate the change. And I wasn't in the spot to change at that point, obviously. So I failed. I paid him. All of these things happened. But, and this is just a great example. Maybe there's a punishment. Maybe there's an amount of money that you owe to that person or to charity, to whatever it is but make sure it is enough. Whatever it is, whatever the punishment is, whatever, if it's a humiliation that you have to do, if it's, like I said, money, like it's got to be harsh enough to create the change. Because this one is all about building momentum. It's getting that ball rolling in the right direction. Because a lot of times, once we can get that going in the right direction enough, it becomes easier to stick with it. And so that's what this one's about. The last one is number 5, the 5th way to create lasting change in your life. Just another frame that you can use to hopefully create that for yourself is to look at what it's already cost you to not change. Like what are some of the downfalls that you've already experienced because you haven't made this change in your life? Time? Is it money? Is it relationships? Is it feeling better about yourself? Is it mental health? Like there are a million different things that could be going on, right? Like I'm going to keep going down this route. So since I'm already on it, like when I decided to quit drinking, what it had really already cost me was I didn't feel good, right? Like energy wise, sleep wise. I felt terrible about myself. I hated myself, hated what I saw in the mirror. I had lots of wasted time, right? I look back 2 to 3 years of my life and I felt like it was wasted. I felt like I just basically was spinning my wheels for those 2 to 3 years. I didn't really make any progress. I wasted lots of money. I was spending like $200-$300+ a weekend easy on booze, right? That could have gone to a lot of different things. And now I spend my money on like myself, investing in myself, coaching, my business, all of that stuff, golf, books. That's the kind of stuff I spend my money on now. I'm like, you know what? I'll spend my money on that all day. But damn, I was spending a shit ton of money. That's like, I literally did the math and I was spending like over $4,000 a year on alcohol. It was like $4 or $5,000 a year, something like that, something outrageous that I was spending. So I was wasting tons of money, and like that is extremely wasted money in my opinion. I mean, obviously no judgment to anybody who drinks. I don't think it's bad. It was just something that did not work for me and did not lead me to good stuff. My performance in life and in my job, like I did not have a lot of energy and focus and all that stuff because I just was not in a good headspace. Like I was getting hammered 3 days out of the week at least, and I was not waking up feeling good the next day. I'd probably just keep parlaying that, and then kind of got worse and worse. There's a lot of different things, so it cost me a laundry list of different things. But if I would have figured that out a little bit earlier and like used some of these things, maybe I would have changed earlier. But a lot of times, it takes us getting to a certain place and we got to just feel enough pain to get there. And that doesn't mean you have to get down to rock bottom though. I was talking about quitting for a long period of time before I did it. And also I was in a rough spot with a lot of the other things I've really overcome in my life, like mindset, my identity. I always found myself constantly like making some small steps towards a new identity. And I would rewrite my identity like 20, 30 times. And then like it would be 1-2 weeks of like, I'm riding high, I'm doing it. And then I would fall back into old patterns. And what I figured out there was that I just didn't ever take the time to look into my past and break the false beliefs. I had so many false beliefs, and the big one being that I wasn't enough. I didn't feel like I was enough. And when you don't feel like you're enough, it doesn't really matter what you do. You're never going to be able to really stick with it. You're never going to be able to keep a lot of the results you get because it all comes back down to that core of not feeling worthy, not feeling enough. And so with that, on this last one though, like what does it already cost you to not change? Like put together a list of everything you've already lost because of this. Like I said, relationships, time, money, how you feel, mental health, all these different things. And this could be another thing for you that's like, oh shit, like I have lost a ton of stuff. It's time for me to start making changes in the right direction. And I would even challenge you to use a combination of some of these different ones. Figure out what works best. Just go through all of these, almost an exercise, and start reminding yourself you could die tomorrow. You could get hit by a car. You could have whatever happen, like a million different crazy things happen on a daily basis. And sometimes I remember this throughout my life where there's like these people that are just like the epitome of health. And it's like they're so outgoing and they're making such an impact. And there was this guy who was like this. And he ended up just like not waking up one day, right? And I remember hearing about that news and I was like, oh shit. Like this guy was the healthiest guy I've ever known. And he made such an impact in so many people's lives. And then just one day he didn't wake up. That could happen to any of us. So if that doesn't spark something under your ass and make you want to make some changes, I know a lot of people out there listening to this podcast, you have people who you really care for and that you love. And so I'm just going back to this first one of death and regret because, I think if you combine that with the fact that you have people in your life that you love and you want the best for and all this stuff, if you're not around, you can't do anything for them anymore. And so that's why I think that's so important to start taking action, start living how you want to, start treating people how you want to, start being present, put the phone away, stop wasting time. But hopefully this helps you. Hopefully these five frames, these 5 ways to be able to create change in your life, to change something, to change a habit, to be able to take action, to be able to quit drinking, to be able to quit some other thing that you're struggling with, to be able to get into a better place with your body and your health. Like there's a lot of things that could be used for. And so hopefully this has been helpful for you. If it was, please make sure to share it with a friend. Please make sure to like, subscribe, rate us on Apple, on Spotify, all that stuff. Like all of it helps us get the podcast out there to more people, which is my mission. Like I said, my mission is to help people transform their lives, grow, become the best version of themselves, and be able to create lasting change in their lives without having to hit rock bottom. And so we're going to be doing that every week on Wednesday mornings. You'll have the episode all ready to go on the drive to work or, while you're going on the morning walk, getting the morning workout in, and hopefully it inspires you to make some changes or to make some small changes, big changes, breakthroughs, whatever. But I appreciate you for taking some time to watch or listen to this today. I hope you have an awesome rest of the day, awesome rest of the week, and I'll be talking to you soon.